You are Locked On Tigers Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And we welcome you late, very late, live Locked On Tigers postcast after one of the more agonizing defeats, tough loss, most difficult losses to swallow of the whole year. It really feels like that way, but we're going to get through it. Buckle up. As always, we're going to bring you our A game here on a live Locked On Tigers postcast. If you're staying up late with us, we appreciate it. My name is Jake Rietma. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma. Final score in this one, 6-5. Tigers scored the first 5 runs of the game and then give up 6 unanswered in a wild game. Again, I put roller coaster game on the marquee because that's really the best way I could describe it. But as always, we thank you for making live Locked On Tigers postcast your post-game destination following the final out, or like in tonight's case, the opposition walking it off in extras. But in any case, we appreciate you making us your first listen. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, on YouTube, it's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. While you're here, go ahead and subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit. We appreciate that as well, especially this time of year where we've got all kinds of things going on. We've got our first Locked On Lions postcast Sunday night. It'll be a late one as well after Sunday Night Football, so stay up late with us. Another Locked On Wolverines postcast after a marquee matchup on Saturday against the Texas Longhorns. So make sure you subscribe for Locked On Sports Detroit so you don't miss a thing. Today's show of the Locked On Tigers postcast is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. That's right. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but don't forget to download the Game Time app, create that account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? Game time! And tonight, well, we're already into the next day. It's now Thursday, September 5th, 1:18 on local time. But when the Tigers play out west and they play a marathon of a game and an extra innings game, that's what can happen. But hey, that's what we're here for on a live Locked On Tigers postcast. We're staying up late. But final score in this one, 6-5. And when you look at the summary, there's probably in the box score, whatever it is, the play-by-play, a lot of different takeaways from here. Tigers jumped out to the early 5-0 lead, and I want to make sure that doesn't get overlooked because there's a lot of good things. I know we're at the portion in the season where we're not looking for positive takeaways, and based on what the Tigers have done in the month of August after selling at the deadline, it goes from a season of the final 2 months of, okay, let's evaluate what we have, let's be under the microscope, to no, we're in the thick of a wild card race. And tonight was an opportunity to make up some ground on both the Red Sox, who lost to the Mets, as well as the Twins, who also lost tonight, and up 5-0, cruising. It felt like it was going to be that kind of game. And again, props to the offense for jumping out to the early lead with the home run from Matt Vierling, his 16th of the season in the first inning off of Yu Darvish. And they were able to chase Yu Darvish out of the game. Sweeney hit the 2-run homer in the 4th, his second of his MLB career. And again, the vibes are high. You're feeling good, but this San Diego Padres team, well, they're a playoff team for a reason and came back with a vengeance. The 3-run homer obviously opened the door and made it a brand new ball game. And Keider Montero, it wasn't his best stuff. 4 1/3, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, and the 3-run homer he gave up to Jackson Merrill, his 22nd of the year. What a swing Jackson Merrill has. I mean, my goodness, he had the ground rule double and part of that string of innings where the Padres were just getting everybody on base but unable to score. And the Tigers, I mean, if they're they had 9 lives. They spent all 9 lives in this game before it finally came to an end in extra innings. But the Padres get the 3 in the home half of the 4th inning with the 3-run homer, and then 2 more right away in the 5th. So we're all tied up at 5, and all the way to the 10th, where you look at the 10th, after the Tigers didn't score in the top of the 10th, I'm thinking, oh my, it was value and effort. It felt like this one was tinkering that way, and eventually the Tigers ran out of gas. And I thought I was ready to just call it then. And then credit to Jason Foley in some sense, because the way he came out and got the first 2 batters, you're thinking, well, wait a second here. And you look at the home half of the 10th inning and you're thinking, we got a chance to get to the 11th, because Foley came in and gets the ground out right away with 1 pitch, 1 out in the top or in the bottom of the 10th with Diaz grounding out. Then he gets McCoy to strike out. And obviously you're going to intentionally walk Luis Reyes, and then it's Fernando Tatis Jr. with the seeing eye ground ball single that scores Jackson Merrill. And that was kind of a fitting way when you think about how good Jackson Merrill was in this game, for him to be the one that crosses home plate to finally end this marathon of a game. It sometimes baseball just has a way of working itself out in that sense. So final score in this one, Tigers fall 6-5. They're now back to 500 at 70-70. And again, I mentioned it, we can scoreboard watch because that's where we're at in this portion of the season. And it was a night that the Red Sox lost, so you had a chance to gain a game on them. The Twins lost 9-4 to the Rays. The Mariners they're the big winners tonight, blowout winners over the Tigers' next opponent in the Athletics, but both the Mariners and the Royals won tonight. So Mariners beat the Athletics 16-3, and the Royals were able to get a game back from the Cleveland Guardians, winning this one 4-1. So what do your wild card standings look like? Well, we've got you covered for that as well. Late into the night here on a live Locked On Tigers postcast. If you experience any lapse in audio, just go ahead and assume I passed out. I fell asleep. And do not adjust your YouTube dials. I would say your radio dials, but nobody's listening on the radio anymore. Do not adjust your smart devices, your tablets, whatever it is you're using for the audio-only version on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, which is my fancy way of saying you can get today's show, if you missed the live version, wherever you get your podcast, free and available. So wild card standings look like this right now. The Yankees have actually fallen back in the East. The Orioles are slightly ahead of them. So the Yankees have the top wild card spot, the Twins at 75-64, the Royals at 76-65. And like I said, Red Sox lost today to fall to 70-70. Tigers lost today to fall to 70-70. Mariners won to get to 70-70. And after that, the Rays at 69-70. Nice. So it's kind of a logjam outside of the wild card. And if you're the Royals, this was the first night in a while after dropping what felt like 10 games in a row. I think it was 7 games in a row before winning today. If you're the Royals, you can collectively take a big, deep breath and say, okay, we gained a game tonight. We've got a 5.5 game lead with less than a month to play. And I know Kansas City, we've sung their praises and given them their flowers all season long for what they've been able to do. But it was starting to look like maybe they were orchestrating quite the choke job there. And I know everything can change in one game, but 5.5 game lead for the Royals right now for that last wild card spot. And same with the Twins, because the Royals and Twins are in fact tied, I believe. Yes. So still, obviously, a lot's going to shake out. But again, when you get to this point in the season, you can have a little fun in watching the scoreboard. And when you're in a little bit of a race like the Tigers are, these games hurt that much more, especially when you're up 5-0 and just can't find a way to win. And quite frankly, I think this game could have been 20-5 Padres, the way they were pouring it on offensively. And the Tigers bullpen just kept finding ways to get out of these jams. I mean, it was, in that sense, you almost got to be a little bit proud of the way this Tigers bullpen performed. And even though, it wasn't to the point where, hey, you get the job done, you get the win, there were innings where you look at it and you think, how did this Padres team not score. I mean, the Tigers surrendered 8 walks as a pitching staff today, and it didn't come back to cost them until and you know, the way the ghost runner is set up there for the 10th inning. I'm not going to say, you know, it wasn't walks that cost the Tigers bullpen in the 10th inning. It's just the stupid Rob Manfred ruining the game rule. But in any case, Tigers lose to the Padres 6-5, the final in this one. Got to avoid the sweep. We're going to talk about how the Tigers can avoid that sweep. We'll also read some of your comments here on a late night edition of a live Locked On Tigers postcast. Thanks for staying up late with us. We appreciate it here on Locked On Tigers postcast. Don't go anywhere. Back in a moment. This episode of the Locked On Tigers postcast is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. That's right. You know the combination. It's passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. It was what was keeping me alive watching this Tigers game tonight when I wanted to go to sleep. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. I'm talking superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. So whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available for U.S. customers. All right, Tigers fall in extra innings, second straight loss to the San Diego Padres. Got to figure out a way to avoid the sweep tomorrow. I mean, that is the biggest thing if you're AJ Hinch and the Tigers. And when you look at the matchup tomorrow and Thursday game, final game of the series, not a day game though. Make sure you mark that down. It is in fact an 8:40 Eastern time start. So we'll be on the air immediately following the conclusion of that one. Casey Mize goes for the Tigers. Martin Perez for the Padres. Mize 2-6 on the season, 4.36 ERA. And Martin Perez 4-5, 4.71 ERA on the season. And then the Tigers head to Oakland, last series in the Coliseum for the Tigers against the Athletics. That will begin Friday night, a late one. Saturday 4:07. So Friday night 9:40 Eastern. Saturday 4:07 on Saturday against the Athletics, and then Sunday 4:07 as well. Off day Monday, back at it on Tuesday at home against the Rockies. So that's your outlook of what's coming up. And again, the Tigers have to figure out a way to win. Technically today, I'm gonna milk that one until it's no longer funny, because we are into the next day. That's right. It is Thursday. We are past midnight, but just a really disappointing way. The other thing I wanted to mention is not only did the Tigers walk a number of Padres tonight, 7 to be exact. Did I have that right? No, 8. I'm sorry. 8 walks that they surrendered tonight, but they were able to force the Padres to leave 13 guys on base. That's right. So again, this could have been a lot worse. And maybe since it was a loss anyways, the Padres could have scored some of those runs in the 6th, 7th, and 8th and 9th innings and just, saved us a couple hours of our life. But hey, at the end of the day, I guess I would be a bad fan in admitting that. But at the end of the day, Padres get the win 6-5 over the Tigers. Tigers back to 70-70. And in a logjam outside of the AL wildcard, outside looking in, tied with both the Boston Red Sox at 70-70 and the Seattle Mariners at 70-70. Everybody's 5.5 games back, chasing both the Royals and the Twins. Let's get to some of those comments. For those that have stayed up late, we appreciate you. 2 comments to get to. First, we begin with Demetrius McNeil. First 4 innings, 5 runs. 6 innings later, all zeros. Was the at-bats are horrible or Padres pitching after you was lifted from the game? No choice to win the finale or get swept. That's a good point from Demetrius McNeil. And I think you look at some of the guys that the Padres had coming out of the bullpen. I mean, they come at you. And one in particular, Tanner Scott, had a long streak without giving up any runs. He was really good tonight. And the rest of that Padres bullpen also really good. I mean, you look at the way that they were just able to come after you with Peralta in inning there. He gave up the 1 hit. And then, like I said, Tanner Scott's really good. And another just arm after arm, Jason Adam, the list goes on of the way the Padres were able to attack the Tigers from the bullpen side of things. But some of that's on the Tigers offense as well. I mean, you get 5 runs early, like you said. You'd think that they could scratch one more across. A couple of at bats with runners in scoring position where they just didn't get the job done. The Tigers were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. So we talk about all the guys the Padres left on base. The Tigers left 7 on and were 0 for 7. And again, you want to talk about Justin Henry Malloy as a pinch hitter. We had that discussion the last time he was a pinch hitter and struck out. This one, he flies to center, a little bit better swing, but in both senses, unable to come through. Spencer Torkelson was 0 for 1, Colt Keith 0 for 2, Matt Vierling 0 for 1, and Carpenter and Jake Rogers both 0 for 1 with runners in scoring position. So nobody got the job done after the 5 runs were scored. Rufus Elgato Day Baseball is up next, and we can always count on him staying up late with us. West Coast guy, just got home from my local Chili's. There you go. That was a long game. I had like 5 Coke Zeros. Now I can't sleep. You should have told me this, Rufus Elgato Day Baseball. I'd let you do the show because I could sleep. I could absolutely sleep. But no, I kid. Tigers will turn the page, get back at it tomorrow, and try to avoid that sweep and not let the gap between the Twins and the Royals get too big in the wild card standings. And again, Casey Mize, the guy on the bump to do it. With that said, we appreciate you making Locked On Tigers postcast your first listen following the final out of the game. And that's what we're here for you on Locked On Sports Detroit. And like I said, fun time of year with Locked On Lions postcast coming up and Locked On Wolverines postcast. And we're getting set for Locked On Pistons postcast. This is your post-game destination, live post-game shows. And we thank you for making it your first listen following the final whistle. But for your second listen, you got to check out Locked On MLB podcast, where host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, is here to provide daily national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs. Maybe the Tigers could be a part of those playoffs. They're 5.5 games back after the loss tonight. Here in the way to prepare for the Fall Classic is with Sully, who has it all covered every single day. I'm Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. We're going to take one more timeout, keep the lights on, and be back to tie a bow on this one as the Tigers fall to the San Diego Padres. Fernando Tatis Jr. walks it off. Jackson Merrill scores, and that's about as fitting as an ending as you could come up with. Back in a moment on the Locked On Tigers postcast. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Tigers postcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. If you don't know by now, listen up. I'm going to school you, take you to school. You're going to learn something today. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll on in. You think you can handle that? I think so. And listen, the NFL season kicks off today, technically. We'll say tomorrow for, scripting purposes and whatnot. But Caleb Williams passing yards gets you one win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right, one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you one win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss the deal. It's on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. Just like Green Day said. Green Day performed at Comerica Park today. How fitting, or tonight, I should say. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get in on the action and sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. And if you want to play PrizePicks alongside Joe Budden and MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley, yeah, that's right. You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries. And man, from some of the biggest name in the PrizePicks community each week. Woo-wee, that sounds pretty cool. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out of your lineup even if it isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Find out more on the app. That's right. Don't take my word for it. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. This episode of the Locked On Tigers Postcast is also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. What time is it? Game Time. That's right. Game Time is the only ticketing app you'll ever need because it's simply the best. Because unlike some of those other ticketing apps, Game Time has it down. A number of different ways they just kick the competition's to the curb, which is why the only ticketing app you'll need is the Game Time app. Here's why I love it. Curated deals that make it easier to find the best price on great seats. I also love, that's right, if you've watched Locked On Tigers before, I love the all-in pricing because when you toggle this feature, it shows you the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout. What a concept. That's right. I want to know exactly how much I'm going to pay for a ticket to a game, whether it's going to see my Tigers play, maybe going to see the Lions play, maybe going to a comedy show, even at a concert or something. I mentioned Green Day was playing in Detroit tonight. That's right. You can use Game Time for all of that, and you can sleep well at night with the lowest price guaranteed. That's part of the Game Time DNA, the lowest price guaranteed. Game Time will credit you 110% the difference if you find a better price. Let me tell you that one more time. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a better price. Game Time also takes care of you. Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Don't forget about that awesome panoramic view from your seat so you can see exactly what it is on the app that you'll be purchasing. None of this deception, no renderings or anything like that. No, it is a panoramic view from the seat that you're purchasing in the app before you buy. Again, what a great concept. Game Time's got it figured out, guys. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, you download the Game Time app, you create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create that account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And again, I ask you, what time is it? Game time. All right, as the great saying goes, those that stay will be champions. If you made it through our episode tonight and you're still awake at 1:40 in the morning, you are a champion in my book. And hopefully the Tigers can put forth a champion effort later today against the San Diego Padres. Of course, it's not quite yet Thursday locally in San Diego, California, or would it be? No, not quite yet. Not quite yet, because that would be, let me do some math. It'd be 12:40, 11:40, 10:40. Would that be right? I don't know. Time zones are tough. I'm not going to lie with you, but appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. And again, even though the Tigers have lost 2 straight, 5.5 back in the wild card tonight would have been a great one to get. I'm not going to lie, especially when you consider the fact that there were a lot of losers in the race tonight, with the Tigers losing, with the Red Sox losing to the Mets, with the Twins losing to the Rays. But the Royals win. They beat the Guardians, and the Seattle Mariners get back on track. They beat the Athletics 16-3. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come for the Tigers when they're playing the Athletics. And the first pitcher the Athletics will face, so for the Tigers, that means Tarek Skubal will go on Friday night against the Athletics, and you got to feel good about that because he gives the Tigers such a great chance to win. And Brant Herter will go on Saturday. So it'll be Tarek Skubal on Friday. Well, let's back up even further. Casey Mize tomorrow, Tarek Skubal on Friday, and Brant Herter, the lefty, on Saturday. Sounds like some runs. The other thing I think that's worth pointing out from the Tigers game tonight, and, Colt Keith had a couple of hits in this one, but some spots where it would have been nice to come through. Obviously, this one's not in. One hit and 4 at-bats for Colt Keith, and 2 hits for Matt Vierling. He had the home run. Just the only guy for the Tigers with 2 hits was, in fact, Matt Vierling. So need some more offense, that's for sure. I thought leaving Montero in after as it seemed like he just didn't really have it again tonight, and maybe not sending him out there for for that when you look at the box score of this one, I lost my box score. I do apologize, but not sending him out there in the 5th inning when the Tigers were able to, or when the Padres rather were able to get their 3-run homer from Jackson Merrill. I believe that was the 5th inning. No, that was the 4th. My apologies. But I think a quicker hook with Keider Montero could have helped tonight. But in any event, Keider Montero, his final line, I already mentioned it, but 4 1/3, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and giving up the big home run is what killed him. From there, it was Sean Gunther, and he went 2/3 of an inning, walked a batter, did not give up a run. Bo Brisky came in, gave up the 2 walks, pitched an inning, gave up a hit. And as far as after that, Shelby Miller, it's always rocky with Shelby Miller, but he was able to pitch around some damage and did not give up a run despite there being 3 guys on. That's very Shelby Miller-esque. And then Will Vest, I thought he was the best pitcher out of the bullpen tonight. 2 innings pitched, did not give up a run, and struck out 3. He had the velocity. He was painting the corners. And I'll add this, that when the game had the momentum, and Benetti talked about this quite a bit on the broadcast, the momentum that game had from time to time, you felt like the Padres were just creeping in to eventually take this one, and that's exactly what they did. So Tigers will have to bounce back tomorrow. That game comes your way at it's an hour earlier, which is strange. So it is an 8:40 first pitch on Detroit time. So we'll be ready for you. POSTCAST, as always, on Locked On Sports Detroit. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you tell a friend about it. Check out Locked On Tigers with Scott Bentley for your day-to-day. And we'll continue to keep you covered on the POSTCAST side of things. As always, it's been a sincere pleasure being on the air with you. Unfortunately, the Tigers fall to the Padres 6-5. They've lost 2 straight. They'll try to avoid the sweep tomorrow. Hey, get some sleep. We'll talk to you next time on Locked On Tigers POSTCAST.